Men, do you ever feel like you just can't get ahead? Like you're misunderstood? Like you have no one to talk to that truly hears you?
And women, are you often frustrated, hurt, and saddened in your relationships with the men in your life?
What if there were a community of like-minded men going through the same challenges that would support, hear, and understand what you're going through?
Working together in unison to create understanding, intimacy, and strong connections. That's the Way of the Illuminated Warrior.
Way of the Illuminated Warrior talk show is a forum of candid conversations for men and women about men. Heard every Thursday at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Eastern Time on Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. Being a man today is not always easy. Until now.
Welcome to another wonderful adventure of the Way of the Illuminated Warrior talk show. I am pretty pumped up today to have my friend Tia Christiansen. Welcome, Tia.
Thank you, Waska. It is such an honor to be here, and I'm so glad that we've been able to reconnect, and what an honor to be able to be speaking with you today.
This is going to be fun because we both have a lot of similarities in the things that we do and the things who we be. We both do coaching. We're into spiritual work, meditation practices, healing practices, and I want to talk about all that stuff. So you primarily work with women. I primarily work with men. And, you know, my show, the Illuminated Warrior work, is all about like helping men to create autonomy in their lives, be responsible, create good relationships through communication and feeling rather than thinking all the time and those types of things. So I'm sure you can relate to that. So I think combining our superpowers together, we can really share some good information for the viewers and other people to tap into. So that being said, I want to start off with what I read on your website was your mission, that you want to awaken 1 million hearts. So let's start there because I love that. What does that mean? Share with us.
Well, you know, I asked that question for quite some time after the mission came to me. What does that mean? And it was something, so Waska, you mentioned, you know, we both have a deep spiritual practice. And so for me, everything I do is intuitively led. And one day I was literally walking around my apartment and I had the thought come through my mind that was, well, awaken 1 million hearts. And I dismissed it. Because I thought, well, gosh, that's quite some ego. Who thinks things like that? Well, that's something that like Oprah or Brene Brown or, you know, these Gabby Bernstein or these, you know, Tony Robbins, that's what they do. So a week later, I was in deep meditation and a very, very powerful presence and a very powerful voice came through and said, why did you think you thought that? And I had that moment of like deep, profound understanding. And then I was told, I gave you that mission. I told you that. And I cried. And in that moment, I was like, oh, okay. Whereas I thought I was checking myself in my ego, I was actually reverse engineering it and playing small. And not seeing that it was divine guidance coming through saying, this is your purpose work, go do this. And then of course that became many more meditations thereafter of, okay, well, how do you want me to do this? What does this look like? And awakening our hearts is about reclaiming our power. And I started out and still do work with a lot of women. However, there are a lot of men who are showing up to my red thread through line, which is an ancestral healing that I channel every month on the last quarter moon. I also have a number of workshops that are activating people's powerful purpose and their creativity through a beautiful ritual, which a dear friend of ours founded called Cosmic Smash Booking. And what I'm finding is, and I'm so honored, is that the divine masculine is showing up.
Yeah.
That the guys are coming in and their hearts are cracking open and it is just an absolute pleasure to see. And I'm an energy empowerment coach. So for me, everything's energy. We all have masculine energy and we all have feminine energy. Yeah. And when that is aligned and when that is unified, all things are possible.
Oh yeah, yeah. So what does that look like in your experience when you say like the men are showing up and their hearts are opening? I know what it looks like in my circles, and also I want to, hear you share about that a little bit.
Yeah, curiosity is
Mhm.
what is how I experience it. And the men who are showing up are some men who are in their senior years,
Yeah.
and they're eager, they're curious, they're ready to be vulnerable
Mm.
when they feel it's safe to do so. They're looking for safety, they're looking for acceptance, compassion, and knowing that whatever they have to share is 100% okay, because who they be in this world is 100% beautiful,
Mm.
regardless of what we do, where we've been, or what's going on. It is the power of being able to see deeply into another's heart and see their most authentic self
Mm.
and embrace them with unconditional love, and allowing someone to express themselves even if they can't find the quote right words, which there are no right words. It's all about showing up wherever you are at on your journey, being yourself. And when you do it with curiosity and eagerness, oh, beautiful.
Yeah, I love that. It's very interesting, hearing that, and I've experienced this myself with the guys. All the things that you described, the showing up, the eagerness, the curiosity, the opening your heart, the being present, the feelings, the expressing. Those are all things that are the sacred feminine part of us, where a lot of the times, guys, we're not raised to really tap into that. And even when I started doing this work, when I would start speaking about feminine or sacred feminine or divine this or sacred that, guys be like, okay, not really easy to open up to, until they really actually experience like, okay, it's not what you think it is necessarily, all those stereotypical, macho, ridiculous things that we hear when we're growing up. It's all about tapping into our own spirit, our own intuition, our own being, whether it's the feminine aspect or the masculine aspect, just to having that communion together. And when guys experience that, it really is a beautiful thing. So I love hearing you share those experiences of the guys that you've worked with, because there's still a lot of guys out there, some of my closest friends, who just don't really get it. They don't open up their hearts. There's a fear that I see there, that they're not willing to be authentic, like you were saying, and be vulnerable. And vulnerability really is a strength. A lot of guys don't realize that it really is a strength to be vulnerable. And a lot of the guys I work with and some friends who are either divorced or looking for relationships, they're having such struggles, not all of them, but some of them, meeting women. And, I tell them it's so simple, and I tell them how simple it is. And they're like, no, that can't work. What do you mean just listen to her? What do you mean just be present? What do you mean, express and emote? And I'm like, yeah, dude, that's what I mean, right? So I don't know your experience with that and working, if you can relate to that. I'm sure you can.
Oh yes, and you all can't see my face, but I'm over here nodding. Oh my gosh, yes, yes. On the receiving end of that, when I'm sitting across from someone at any point in time, but let's talk about a date, and they're present and they're interested in what I have to say, and they're listening, and they're not cutting me off because they're eager to interject or because they have something to respond to. Oh my gosh, it's delicious. I feel seen. I feel held. It creates a safe space for me to feel like I can share more about myself. And it's a really delightful experience. And on the other side of that, I also get to be present.
Mm.
And I get to be mindful, and I get to be focused and really listening to what the man across the table is saying to me, hearing what's underneath the words that he may be using, just so that I can build a safe space for him to share what's in the depths of his soul and whatever he's ready to share. And in those moments, I find that I walk out from the date and I feel that I've made such a beautiful connection. So regardless if it ends up becoming a romantic love affair or the lifetime love affair, I've been able to connect with this other person in a really deep, authentic kind of way. And that's magic right there. And something else that I wanted to share was about how you said your friends and people that you work with, and in those beginning conversations about feminine energy and masculine energy, is that I have the same conversations with a lot of women. And my experience has been is that we came out of a very roarous, I'll make up a word, roarous 70s movement where women had to roar because nobody was listening. And it was hear me roar. And then as I experienced it in coming of age and graduating high school in 1986, the image that I was being fed was be strong. And this was very masculine. I don't need a man. If I want to have a baby, I'll have a baby. If I want to have a house, I'll buy a house. I don't need him. I'll climb the corporate ladder. I'll do everything by myself because I am that strong. And it took me a long time to come back to the other side of it and understand that it's in those moments when I say, hey, I am strong, and boy, I could really use your support with this. That relationship opens up. And as I look back on it, women, quote unquote, had adopted the outdated masculine mantle of pushing and shoving and the energy that no longer has space in our world. It just simply isn't, that time has gone. And so I'd like to say to people, it started out, hear me roar, and now it's roar with me.
I love that. That's great. That's such a valuable statement there, and it's so true. I mean, you see it on the wide screen as well as in interpersonal relationships, and I totally agree with you. I think there's kind of a disconnect with, and these shows I think relate to all genders. Usually talking about heterosexual relationships, but I say all the time it really doesn't matter what you identify as. I think the intention and the information that comes through relates to everybody. But speaking about women and men and the similarities and the differences, I definitely see and hear very often that disconnect. And right now today, I think women are striving to be heard, to have that roar going on there, but there is a lot of that yang energy, that masculine energy doesn't seem to be focused, and the guys don't know how to deal with it. They don't, they're like, whoa, they're afraid of it. And I think to a degree, women are just really trying to harness it. And it is time that we have that equanimity and that balance where we're not, men are not up here and women are down here or vice versa. We need to be leveled out and balanced and walking side by side. So it's a really important time, I think, really more than ever for this type of work and for the communication and for that presence to sit and listen and to take it in before we're, like you were saying before, I don't need to be interjecting. I don't need to tell you what I'm thinking right now, because if that's what's on my mind, then I'm not here. I'm not present. I'm not listening to you. And where is that relationship going? And I think that's a microcosm as well as a macrocosm, that we don't always listen to what's right in front of us. And, the answers are right there. We could tap into our own hearts and just connect in that way. So, so thanks for bringing that up and sharing that information as well. Yeah.
My pleasure. And I love the idea. I actually, speaking into the question that you asked about what's my experience in conversations and in connecting with men, I have a very particular date in mind, and this gentleman who was exactly that way, and even took the time to ask me oh, this was over dinner. What do you like to eat? Do you have any dietary restrictions? And was curious about it. It wasn't perfunctory. It wasn't like checking a box. It was this curiosity around it. And it really, really opened the door for me to be super vulnerable and share a lot about myself. And we created a wonderfully connected experience. I mean, I can speak for myself. He said he felt wonderfully connected too. So I'll share that.
Yeah. Well, when I'm hearing like there was safety created for both of you, there was, mindfulness and presence, that you were listening to each other and sharing and having that connection. That's what creates connection. Because if it's just one-sided, if it's me telling you about me and then saying, okay, let's talk about you. What do you think about me? That doesn't work. It's not all about me, and the only way to get to know somebody is to ask questions and to listen and to reflect what's going on in the conversation. So we are awakening those 1,000,000 hearts. So how many hearts are you up to anyway? You keeping track? How many have you awakened?
Waska, I'd have to actually sit down and think about that. And it's a fantastic question, which I get to go back and just take a look at. I'm not quite at 1,000,000 yet. However, I take a look at every single time that I'm able to come together with someone like yourself, and we're able to get into a really deep, juicy conversation around where we're all at as people and how we get to come together, what we get to heal, how we get to show up. And anybody who hears this, anyone who has just a moment where they're like, I hadn't thought about that before. That is a moment where the heart is awakening. And so I take every single one of those moments and count them in the win column. And it's not about necessarily quote unquote winning or losing. It is about what I took that mission and that, hey, you get to awaken 1,000,000 hearts. There's a really profound calling forth of stop hiding. You get to play a bigger game. So I'm going to give you a really big game to play in this world so that you continue to use that as fuel to move forward. And I fully see that it's absolutely 100% possible in my lifetime to reach 1,000,000 hearts. I have no question. I have no doubt about that. And then I've even thought the thought, what will it be like when that happens, and where do I get to go next?
Well, we get to go to the 1,000,000 Hearts Awaken Tia Christiansen party. That's where we're going.
That's right. And you're all invited.
Yeah.
We'll be right back after this. Hey guys, this is Waska. Listen, if you're hearing my voice, there are no coincidences. Are you ready to get unblocked and take the next step forward, whether it's with relationship issues, finances, or just moving into the next phase to elevate yourself? Listen, bros, this is what I do. I'm here for you. Drop me an email at Waska, that's WASKA, at illuminatedwarrior.com. We will work on this together and take you to the next step. I promise you'll be glad you did.
So I think a lot of what comes along with being able to open up your heart, because I hear a lot of stories from the guys that I work with, again, sharing nothing specific, but those experiences. A lot of times their hearts are closed for a lot of different reasons. And I will just say a blanket statement, which I think we all have been affected by trauma in our lives, one way, shape, or form or another. I think we're kind of a society of traumatic hearts trying to be awakened and open again. And a lot of it starts when we're small little dudes and dudettes, and we carry that with us for sometimes our entire lives until we are awakened enough or mindful enough or present enough to know that there's another way. So let's dive into that a little bit, because I know we're both into the healing arts and stuff. So we'll talk a little bit about trauma and healing and ancestral awakening and healing, because I know you're very into that. So if you want to dive right into that, let's do it.
Yes, please. It took me a while, anybody who out there who's ever had a business coach, they have a very particular framework that they train, that most of us get trained in. And it's, pick an avatar, pick a target market, and it gets to look like this or that or the other thing. And what I've noticed is that the people that I come in contact with, the people that I get to work with, are people who have a heart to heal. have a powerful purpose to unleash, are ready to awaken to their unique creative genius, and are ready to tap into their intuitive skills. And that could be man, woman, angel, guide, light being, whatever type of being that is. That's really at the core. And when we experience trauma in life, and that could be anything at all, and I'm sure you've talked about this a number of times on your show, that from the ages of 0 to 8 and even 10, we lock in our experiences, and those experiences create a software program that gets written and runs in our being. And it's the stories of, I don't want to. Maybe you were a young person in high school and you held the door open for a female, and she looked back at you and said, "I've got that. I can open my own door." In that moment, perhaps a story got created you weren't very conscious of, but oh my gosh, if I ever hold the door open or open the door for another woman again, another female, I'm going to get yelled at. So I'm not going to do that anymore. And it can be something like that, or it can be a very, very dark night of the soul type of experience where, there's all kinds of abuse or tragic situations that happen in life. And that trauma gets locked within us. And so talk therapy is great. We can process things. There are all kinds of different talk therapies. And what I mean by talk therapy is where you go and you meet with a therapist and you verbalize, or you go through different methodologies with a licensed therapist of some kind. And then for me, and some of you may or may not know, there's also somatic trauma. So what happens is when we experience something in life, those experiences all get locked in our body. They become part of the memory of our muscles, our tissues, the fascia, the connective tissue, all of that. And so we can go to talk therapy for decades and maybe never feel completely healed. And that maybe, and in my stand is that it's mind, body, soul. So I'm going to speak into the reason you don't feel healed is because your body's still carrying that trauma. And so there are a variety of different ways to release trauma somatically or from the physical body, which is equally important as the speaking part. And now there's the energy aspect, the spiritual aspect, the soulful aspect of how, really, quite honestly, if we go really deep, there are times that we can lose pieces of our soul, that our aura gets impacted, and there can be holes in our aura which impact our energy system and then also our physical body and our emotions. Our chakras can become out of balance, or I never say the word damaged because I never see anything that's damaged. For me, that sounds like a judgment, but there's alignment and unaligned and out of alignment. There's balanced and unbalanced. So all of these things in life can create imbalances within our being, which impact, because we are a divinely created being, it impacts the physicality of who we are, our mental state, our emotional state, and our energy state. And so by embarking on your healing journey in this lifetime, and whatever path you choose, because my path is perfect for me, and it may not be perfect for you, by embarking on the healing journey, by simply choosing, by simply saying, I'm going to choose to heal, that begins everything right there. That sets the entire universe in motion to conspire to bring you every single resource that you need for your healing journey, just by making that simple choice. And you may be thinking, I don't even know how to begin. That's okay. Because guess what? You're here listening to this episode right now. You're listening to Waska's episodes. That is part of your healing journey, just by being in the conversation. And then, of course, as Waska knows, I'm also a Reiki Master and an energy healer. I am initiated into the King Solomon school, and I also work with Diamond Light Energy. And I was given a healing ritual by Isis, which is the red thread through line, which is an ancestral healing of our feminine lineage, our feminine energy.
Wow, that's some powerful stuff you just shared there, and I love it. Yeah. And I especially love when the universe conspires for us. Yes, it's a beautiful thing, which I'm sure you know, the universe only knows yes. So we really have to be focused in our intentions and where we put our attention. Even that negative self-talk. A lot of times we think it's positive. Well, I'm lacking this, or I don't have that, but I want this. You know, it's. I was told by some Native American elder friends a long time ago, be very specific and very clear in your prayers and in your intentions, you know, because you may say something that you think is going to bring you prosperity and abundance and all the good stuff, but the way you're even putting it out there, the universe, great spirit, is not hearing it clearly. So it's very important for us to really sit with that before we just start spewing out there, well, I want this, I need that, I gotta have this, you know. So intention is really is very, very important, where we put our attention in our intentions. And you were talking about not calling damaged, which I totally agree with, you know, whether it's the chakra system or physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. I like to look at it as like blockages, or I say to the guys a lot of times, they're challenges, you know, and I can't tell you how many times I've heard, well, Waska, you said that, you know, these challenges are going to pass. I'm like, yes, they passed, right? She's like, yeah, but there's more challenges. I'm like, yeah, and guess what? There's going to be more after that, and more after that, and more after that. That's just life. I mean, the biggest part about that is the challenges are the opportunities for us to grow. And I think when we really could embrace that and take that on, like, okay, here comes another challenge, you know, bring it on, because I'm gonna get something out of this. I'm gonna learn something. I'm gonna dive into this, and I'm gonna come out the other side. You know the saying, like, there is no breakthrough without breakdown, and sometimes we need to go deep and get ugly and cry and scratch and claw and scream and roar, as you said, and come out the other side. So it's tough. It's tough as far as the trauma, when we don't want to look at it, or we're not ready, willing, and able, and everybody's not always ready to do that. So I think that that presence and compassion in doing the coaching work or circle work and all is really key, to just sit with somebody and hold that space. Like we say, hold space. It's just being present for somebody and holding them like you would hold a baby. Just, you know, whatever it is that you need, bro or sis, whatever it is, you know, I'm here for you. And how powerful is that? I'm sure you could speak to this. Like, just knowing that you have sisters around you, and our circle is brothers that are not sitting there judging you or telling you, well, you should have done this, or you should do this, or you blah, 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 blah. But I'm here for you, bro. Say what you got to say, emote however you have to emote, and I'm here for you. So, I mean, what's your experience, that sitting in circle, or, you know, even whether a one-on-one or in a you know, an active circle with women, when you have that experience of just being present, creating that sacred space and supporting each other? What does that look like in your world?
Whew, what a juicy question. Thank you. A couple of thoughts that came forward as you were talking, you know, challenges. It's a practice, and my practice around challenges is to see every challenge as an opportunity to shift.
Yeah.
Really easy to say, I know. And that's why I call it a practice, because I do get to practice. And that opportunity to be in a circle, either virtually or in person, because again, everything I do is about energy. So everything in this world is energy. So even though you and I are in two different states right now, and we're recording this, we are in circle. Every single one of you who's hearing this, recording this show, this episode, we are in circle right now, because there is no time or space. There is no distance when we are creating something energetically, which is magic. And in being in circle, and in being in service, and being a channel, you know, a servant, an instrument of the divine, of healing energy, whatever your words are for it, I ask you to go ahead and translate it into your words so that it lands for you. But being in that space is profoundly humbling. Profoundly humbling. Every time I have a red thread through line healing session, and when we conclude, and even before we conclude, I'm in tears, I have smiles, and that is just because of the humbling experience of being able to hold that space while others are able to process, to heal, to have realizations. And what I share in those moments is you may not remember exactly what was going on, and that's not important. The exact what or the exact experience, that doesn't matter. What matters is sort of what I said before, is that you chose to say yes. You chose to say, I'm open, I'm ready, I'm choosing healing. And it's just by being in that space where you're opening the door for yourself to release stuck energies, to release old experiences, to release that which you've been carrying around like a heavy backpack filled with rocks through lifetimes or through this lifetime. And maybe you get the whole backpack off. Most likely you get one rock that you're taking out one at a time. And that's exactly perfect. So really, from a very selfish perspective, it's incredibly humbling to bear witness to other people's transformation, and to know and to see the changes on their faces, and to know that when our circle is complete, I may get to see them again very soon, or I may get to see them in some time, and they're going out into the world having healed just a little bit more. And what that's doing is healing the fabric of our universe. It's healing the fabric of our society. It's healing the fabric for their family, for themselves, for their community. And if I get to be a person that can be a channel and bring in energy, or be the person who gets to hold that space or ask a very profound, pointed, lovingly interruptive question in a coaching session, that creates that moment for someone to have a realization, shift, an aha. Whew. Wow. Is there anything better in life? I don't know.
Yeah. No, I get chills hearing that, because I've had that experience, and I invite everybody to find the resources to experience that, because it really is super powerful, and it combines all the things we're talking about, to being in a safe and sacred space, to being present, to sharing, to hearing, as well as speaking, but to have that communion with whoever is in that sacred space. And it really is, it's special. It really is. When guys come in, that especially that haven't experienced it before, they're like, wow, I feel like naturally high. I'm like, yeah, but this is what it's about, having a brotherhood or having a sisterhood and being there for somebody. It's not just, and I say this a lot of times, just going to the game and just talking shop with the guys. I mean, that's fine. I mean, I personally haven't really been into that most, if not whatever. I don't mean to get down on that, but to me, especially the older I get, I want to have like real connections with people. I don't want to just talk turkey, that's superficial and doesn't mean anything. And I know he's BSing me, and I say, what's going on with you? Oh, nothing's going on. Like, everybody's got challenges. Everybody's got something going on, and why not be there for each other? So it's fine to go out and have some beers and go to the game. I'm not saying it's not. It absolutely is. But also to be there for each other and support each other, because that saying, you never know what's going on behind closed doors. So many times that we think that we know what's going on with this couple or that couple or this guy or that woman. And if you really knew the truth, and when you actually hear the truth, you know what? They could have used our support, just like we could use their support. So I'm very verbose, and especially coming from a place of being a very introverted little dude who never opened his mouth, just shut up and made everything nice and good and wanted to be invisible. Now I really don't care if somebody thinks I'm whatever, fill in the blank. I mean, I'm going to be there for you. If you need me as a friend, then I'm going to be there for you. And if I got to push buttons or get out the poking stick a little bit because I know you can use some support, then, I do it. I put the ego aside and I'm like, I'm here for you. Whether it's uncomfortable for you or not, I'm here. Take it if you want it. If not, I will be here waiting for you to come around if you so choose to do. And that's, I think that's the power of doing the kind of work that we do. And that's, I think it's, if the whole world was willing to like extend our hands and hold each other, gently and compassionately in that way, things would be a lot different. The things we saw on TV, on the news would be a lot different stories, right?
Absolutely. And what would it be like if when we met someone and we said, how are you doing? Or how you doing? Happens in, the New York area. That we actually meant it. And it wasn't perfunctory. Or it wasn't just something, oh gosh, that's just a habit that I say. And I'm not, and that's not to say that you don't mean that, whoever's listening, but being in the practice of saying, how are you doing today? And then actually creating the space for a person to respond. And what would it be like if we all responded really honestly? And oftentimes I'll say that to someone like, oh, I actually really want to know, how are you doing today? And it may be that they're like, whew, thanks for asking. I'm actually having a really hard day. And I wouldn't have said that if you didn't ask. And sometimes when somebody asks me how I'm doing, I get really vulnerable. And it's a practice for me to get that really like, I'm having a fantastic day. I can't wait to tell you, do you have time? I'd love to tell you more about it. Or I'm having a so-so day, or gosh, I'm really down today. Do you have a moment? I'd love to just share with you what's coming up for me. And then being able to create that space for each other to actually share is another opportunity to create that intimacy in just a moment.
Yeah, that's so true. It's I've had that experience a lot where it seems like it's a rhetorical question, like, how are you doing? And then there's just silence, whether it's even on the phone or meeting somebody, how are you doing? And a lot of times, most of the times it's taken as rhetorical, like, yeah, I'm fine, or they don't even answer. It's just kind of like, hey, but no, really, just like you were saying, like, how you doing? And that opens up a whole nother dialogue that might not have been, because so many of the times it is basically just in passing, or it's a rhetorical question, like, yeah, I didn't even expect you to answer. So it's, gets back to that, really just being in the moment and being present and actually caring. Wow, what a concept.
I get to awaken 1 million hearts, which means my practice is also being open-hearted. My practice is creating that space, no matter where I am, walking down the street, hopping into a coffee shop or gassing up my car, that wherever I am, I get to remind myself to be in that practice of open-heartedness, so that vibration, it's a spiritual practice for me, that vibration, that I'm holding that. I'm holding the awakened heart. I'm an awakened heart activator. That's one of the healing modalities I have. So I get to hold that vibration no matter where I am. And on those days where I'm not going to lie, I'm not perfect. There's some
You're
days.
not.
Gosh, no. There's some days I'm deep in the muckety muck. And that's okay too, because that is the human experience. And it's those experiences that we came here to learn, so that we could heal ourselves and continue to move forward in our spiritual journey and our journey as beings, so that we can bring the light into this world. And we're in an incredibly unique time of our world history. And I'm not talking just about the global cocooning or the timeout or whatever you want to call it, the shutdown. Unique in the global history, where we had tools that we were able to stay in touch with each other around the world. What an invitation to really take a look at, how are your relationships? How is your relationship with yourself? And how are your relationships at large? And we're in this very unique time of feminine energy coming back very strong, and that that whole concept of the individual, the I am solely, you know, with a sword in hand running around, and that old masculine energy, there's no space for it anymore. And that's not to say that it isn't clunky and it may not hurt a bit before we get to the other side of it. And hang on, it's coming. And everything that you're doing, and like I've said it before, being here and participating in Waska's show and episodes and being in your own journey is bringing in the light. So thank you.
Yeah, very true, very true. So hearing you, and a big part of the reason that I like to have women on the show is because I did a show not that long ago, like, what do women want? That was the question. What do women want? And then I would do it with this other bro, David, and we start talking. I'm like, hold on, man. I'm like, the first answer to that question should be like, why don't we just ask them? Like, why are we even saying two guys are saying what women want? Like it's like, so it's funny, but it's not funny. It's like, let's just ask them, and get their answer and listen and do all the things that we're talking about doing, So, and it was a great show because he left, and then a woman actually that was listening chimed in, and she, filled in the blanks and all. So I think it's really important to have a woman's perspective, and to hear these things, not just me talking all the time about my experiences, which, they are valuable, but to help guys in relationship with women, it's very important to me to have women's perspective. So let me ask a question. Let's see. Let me come up with a good one for you. So, what would you say to a guy? What would you want to see a guy do, like in relationship? And it doesn't have to be romantic, but just being in a relationship with somebody new in their lives. What would you like to see them? How would you like to see them show up? What would be your invitation to them, how to show up, to really get the most benefit, not just for themselves, but to have a communion relationship with who they're sitting across from?
Ooh, deep question. Thank you. Hold on, I'm going to let that pop fly hang in the air just a little bit more.
Ooh.
So this date that I referenced earlier in our conversation, we had an amazing time. It was incredible. And I'll share a little bit because it does answer what you're saying. It has a romantic spin on it. Connected, great, easy flowing, chatting back and forth. He invited me out to dinner. And I really appreciated that. And it felt super old school to me. Like, remember back in the day when people picked up the phone, the landline, like, are you available on Thursday? I'd love to take you out to dinner. And so we met over dinner, had an incredible time together, very connected, and had some texts back and forth after that. And then later in the week, I woke up to a text from him one morning and said, as you could probably tell, I like you very much. And I was like, oh, that's, and I was feeling the feels. I was like, whoa, there's like potential. I was feeling like a little girl, like in high school again. And then his text said, I have a request to make. And I was like, of course. As I'm reading all of this in my blissfulness, and he said, my request is that we put this on pause. And I'm realizing that I still have some inner healing that I get to do. So I'm not going to lie. I was like, what? Universe, what are you doing? And what do you mean? Like, and I really got to be in a space of how amazing this person communicated with me. And so that goes to answering your question, like honest, open communication is from the heart, meaning that you're speaking your truth, and the languages you're using and the words that you're using is really open. And so I responded to this very lovely man of course, I absolutely honor where you're at. Thank you so much for letting me know what was coming up for you. You could have just blown me off. You could have blocked my number. You could have never responded. There's all kinds of different things that could have happened, and he didn't. So there was honesty, there was communication, And it was very vulnerable and had lots of integrity. And I said, all relationships start with a friendship. It's very true. So if it ever, you'd like to just grab a cup of coffee at some point in time, it just occurs to you, no expectations, know that I'm here, because regardless of whatever happens between us, I also get to be your friend. And so I'm sharing that story. I hope I've answered your question. So friendship, open, honest communication, and I understand that, you know, my share and what works for me may not work for everyone else. Really deep down inside, I truly believe that it does. That when people may think they don't really want open, honest communication, it's just because they're afraid. They have a fear that there's going to be some kind of judgment, or that they'll hear something that may hurt their feelings. And so that's not the kind of communication I'm talking about. Not judgmental, hurting feelings communication, but just like what this very nice man did, of like, there's something that's coming up for me, and I'm identifying that I have some healing to do. Profound.
Yeah, that's powerful. And just like you said, he could have gone a very different direction. So kudos to both of you for your response to that, and acknowledging him in that, how he did show up, but also to him, because like you said, he could have just powered through it, or not been honest, or not told you, and it could have went a very different way. So speaking your truth, opening up that throat chakra and being present to what the other person has shared with you and is saying, and also expressing what you need to get out off your chest and from your heart is so important. And a lot of times the other person may not be what they wanted to hear, just like you said, that wasn't exactly what you were hoping to hear. But in the big picture, the honesty and the truth, and him actually caring enough to tell you what was really going on is a beautiful thing, and who knows where it's going to go from here. The friendship, could develop, and you have that basis of knowing that, this guy is going to be present to what's going on in his life enough that he doesn't want to entangle it in yours, and he wants to do the work, which is big, to show up and do the work for ourselves first and foremost is essential, because if not, we bring in all that trauma that we've taken with us from, whether it's 8 years old or 18 or 28 or 48, whatever it is. So so that's great. Thanks for sharing that. That's a great, it's a great story. I hope the listeners, and especially the guys, got something out of that. Be truthful, be honest, be sincere, be there. Yeah. Which made me think of something else, if you don't mind. I want to ask you another question, because I know you do work with sacred purpose and all, and that's something I really focused on a lot with the guys. And I did a webinar about power, purpose, and presence, and I kind of felt like it was getting a little redundant and a little too much. And the guys kept saying to me, like, I don't know what my purpose is. What's sacred purpose? And I realized it's like, wow, just because I know what mine is, and I feel like I could help guys find it, I'm like, it's not necessarily the best way to go about it, because I saw a number of different guys struggling with that, like getting frustrated. I don't know what my purpose is. Why do we have to keep working on, let's find our sacred purpose? And then I realized it's like, wow, that was very profound to me. So my response to that was like, how about if your sacred purpose is you just wake up every morning, decide to be happy, decide to put out the best you that you could possibly put out there, be in service whenever you can. And it's just that simple. Be happy and be in service whenever you can. You don't have to figure out, is this my purpose? Should I be doing this? Do I have to do that? Who am I supposed to be? Just do your best to, live a life of integrity, be happy, and be in service when you can. And that was my, simple answer. And I really liked it, because it's like, we could all be doing that, and that's a beautiful sacred purpose as far as I'm concerned. And then whatever comes from that, hey. So what's your experience with that? Because I know you do a lot of work with purpose and sacred purpose and all. Like, if you have experienced like that kind of frustration from people, or like, how do you navigate around that, or what do you think is a good way to go with the sacred purpose question?
I love sacred purpose. Yes. Where I go with that is I take them through a Cosmic Smash Book page, which is a creative process allowing people to tap into their inner wisdom from an intuitive space. That we're not thinking about what's my purpose, what's my purpose, oh my gosh, what's my purpose? I better come up with a purpose. Oh my God, it's sacred. Oh my goodness. So like, let's just debunk and deconstruct what the word sacred means. Let's debunk and deconstruct what the word purpose means. It doesn't mean that, you all of a sudden you're like, oh my goodness, I'm Martin Luther King Jr. That was his purpose. Joan of Arc, that was her purpose. And whatever your purpose is, means that you're the lighthouse in that purpose. So we can think about these big names. We can think about, present day people, the Oprahs, the Brendan Burchards, the other people who are out there who are leading a revolution of some kind. There's a revolution in healing people's bodies right now that's very profound. And that's their sacred purpose. So yours could be one piece of whatever your puzzle is. And so I would say, let's just get rid of whatever it is that your mind is concocting, what that means. And let's move into a space of like, all right, hey, ego, I love you. And you're just going to take a time out for right now, because I'm going to move my client, move whoever I'm speaking into either a deep meditation, which I call a future meditation, where I'm activating feminine energy and allowing people to get into that inner wisdom piece and to unlock what is available to them through a visualization. Or I take them through a creative process where we're again putting the ego to the side and giving it a timeout. Actually, we're giving it a lot of toys so that it's busy over the corner, so that your inner wisdom, your subconscious, your connection with the divine, your higher self can all come forward and be like, hey, here's your purpose. Do it all along. It's the thing that you wanted to do when you were a kid. It's the thing that bubbled up for you your whole life that you brush away a little bit. Maybe because there's a little bit of fear, or you're like, that I could never do that. Or you don't think it's yours. You already know what it is. So this is just an invitation to let it come forward and speak it into being. Because as you were saying before, Waska, where our attention goes, energy flows. A lot of us have heard that saying, and it actually is quantum science. The thoughts that we think produce photons, which go out into the world and actually create matter and create energy, and it creates the reality around us. So if we continue in the shoulds and the have-tos and the musts, that it actually cuts off all that flow. So the place I would bring people is into a creative moment or a meditative moment. I'll use that word for lack of a better way to describe it, where we're giving lots of toys to the ego and the conscious mind to keep it busy so that we can let your inner wisdom come through, because every single person has a powerful purpose, because you are a lighthouse and you may just not understand how you are yet.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, it's interesting. You keep bringing up that word lighthouse. I was just up in New York recently, so I crossed the Long Island Sound twice and saw a couple little lighthouses there. And I took one photo. It was just this little lighthouse. There was one little boat there. It must be the lighthouse keeper, because there's no other boats around. And I was just thinking, like, wow, just this vast body of water and one boat. Like it seemed like kind of like a metaphor to me. It's like, a lot of times, you just feel like you're out there, there's nobody else there, just you. And, you have the sacred purpose could be this lighthouse to shine and illuminate whatever it is that you have, not even knowing where it's going, if it's affecting anybody, but it doesn't matter. This is what we get to do. Because it is a choice. We could wake up every day and either be like, hey, this is a beautiful day and I get to be the best possible me I can be. Or, we wake up and like, oh, life sucks, which, it's a choice. So when you were saying the lighthouse, I was thinking about that, because crossing that body of water, I was thinking like, okay, yes, it's all about illumination, hence the illuminated warriors. Let's just keep on shining that light regardless. It doesn't matter. I don't have to know if it's hitting anybody and it's lighting the way. It's just the intention of doing it and holding that space and just being there, just being present. I think Woody Allen said it, but maybe not. I'm not giving a shout out to Woody, but like 80% of success is just showing up, so I think it's just super important to whatever the work is. And we're talking about healing work and spiritual work, just show up, be present for whatever it is, whether it's, healing circle, whether it's just, doing your interpersonal work or your regular job work, or having a conversation with your mom or your partner or whoever. Be present, be there, show up, and, not have your mind out here in a million different places, and just be in the moment, as the saying goes, be here now.
Yes. And thank you for the visualization of the singular lighthouse, because actually what was popping up for me, I receive a lot of information visually. I'm very clairvoyant and clairsentient, is what if, and I'll give this to everyone listening, what if you could take that lighthouse, and what if you were standing next to it, and the next person was standing next to it, and the next person, the next person, the next person, the next person, and so on into infinity. It wouldn't matter how bright your light is. We're all standing as lighthouses together, ushering in this illumination, this illuminated warrior, and who we be. How bright is that light? And what kind of change can we all affect when we come together and we're shining our lights together?
Well, I can see us shining that light on 1 million awakened hearts.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's a beautiful intention, and I love that. That's your purpose and that's your mission, and it's important, So, whether each of us has that sacred purpose or mission in our minds, in our hearts, and our souls already, it doesn't matter. It's just being present and open to exactly what you're offering. Just open up your heart, shine the light, and be there for somebody, one person. Like, when I first started doing this work, it's like, I'm like, is this going to expand? Is it, how big do I want it to be? And I intentionally keep it very intimate, because I find like I don't have to affect a gazillion people. I just really have to, like Mother Teresa said, it's just doing ordinary things in a beautiful way. I mean, as she said it much better than that, but you know what I mean. It's just, just be the beautiful person and just share your love and light with everybody that you come in contact with, and it will emanate out there. And I think that's really what it's all about. So, so before we close, I want to give you the opportunity to, because I know there's a lot of stuff going on in that heart, a lot of stuff going on in that mind, and a lot of stuff that you could share that would, be beneficial for the peeps to hear. So what would you like to close with?
Trust yourself. And that can be very challenging. And so my invitation to you is to take a look at yourself in the mirror very deeply, and look into your own eyes and challenge yourself to see the beauty that you are. Challenge yourself to see that your heart is wide open. It overflows with love and energy. It doesn't matter where you are in life. That is the truth of who you be in this world. And it's a practice. And so the heart opens and closes and opens and closes, and it opens a little bit and it closes a lot, and whatever it is. And that's all okay, because you are beautiful just the way you are. You are perfection just the way you are. You are divine just the way you are.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. Very sweet. Yeah. So Tia Christiansen, Dream Sculpting Institute, share your contact information so people could reach out to you if they so choose. And I encourage them to reach out to you, because she has some beautiful offerings. So how can people get in contact with you?
You can visit dreamsculptinginstitute.com. There's a contact page, or just send me an email, Tia, TIA, at dreamsculptinginstitute.com. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram, which is at dreamsculptinginst. And I'm pretty active on Instagram, and would love to hear from you. And any questions that you may have, please feel free to send them my way, or feel free to jump into a workshop and let's create together.
Beautiful. Let's awaken more of those hearts together. We got to get up to 1 million before the end of the week. How about that?
That's a declaration.
All right. Hey, one heart at a time, right?
Right.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, T. This has been wonderful, and hopefully we could do it again.
Sounds great. Thank you, Waska, and thank you to all of you listening. It's such a pleasure to be here with all of you.
All right. Aho. And as I always end, I'm like, let's just continue to illuminate our paths with love and kindness.
Visit IlluminatedWarrior.com if you'd like to go deeper and find out more about what's available within the Illuminated Warrior Men's Transformational Community. Tune in next time for more candid conversations for men and women about men on the way of the Illuminated Warrior Talk Show every Thursday at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Eastern Time on Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. Until next time, illuminate your path with loving kindness.